Hi there. Thanks for joining us. My name is Dylan Robertson. I'm with the Canadian Press. I'll be moderating this press conference of the Standing Committee on Foreign Affairs and International Development about the report that they have just tabled. We've got 5 MPs before us and a 6th one on Zoom. We'll start with those in the room. The speaking list has changed slightly, but I will start with the chair. Please, everybody, introduce yourself when you start to talk. We'll take questions afterwards dans les deux langues officielles. I'll update you on how much time we have in this press conference. So we'll start with the chair, MP Ali Ehsassi.
Thank you for that, and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for joining us today. My name is Ali Ehsassi, and I am the chair of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Foreign Affairs and International Development. Here with me today are the committee vice chairs, MPs Garnett Genuis and Stéphane Bergeron from the Conservative and Bloc Québécois parties, as well as the New Democratic Party's Foreign Affairs and International Development critic, Ms. Heather McPherson, who is joining us remotely. Before giving them the floor, I'll just make some brief opening remarks. Once we've all finished, we'd be happy to take any questions you may have. Now, earlier today, I had the honor of tabling in the House of in the House of Commons, our committee report, the Russian state's illegal war of aggression against Ukraine. While our committee released a short statement shortly after Russia launched its full-scale invasion, this represents our first comprehensive response to the grave injustice that continues to unfold in Ukraine. It is called an interim report because I'd like to emphasize that we do intend to remain actively seized with this issue. The report makes 15 recommendations to the Canadian government that cover wide ground, from the imposition and enforcement of sanctions to the pursuit of justice for Russia's crime of aggression and other issues that are of pertinent interest. The report's core findings are expressed in our recommendation that Canada must provide significant financial, humanitarian, and military assistance to Ukraine so long as Ukraine must defend itself against Russian aggression. These recommendations reflect our collective determination to respond in a serious, steadfast, and unified way to the gravest foreign policy challenge we have faced in decades. As the report makes clear, while the path ahead may be difficult, we already know that our ultimate destination is Ukraine's victory on Ukraine's terms. I'll now hand it over to MP Garnett Genuis. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you all for being here. This is an important report and reflects a consensus of all parties on the committee. Speaking for the Conservative Party, we are certainly proud to endorse this report and all of its recommendations. Our party did also supply a supplementary report which identifies a number of additional steps that we are proposing. One key area for us, and it's spoken to throughout this report, is the issue of Canada's contribution to global energy security. Now, Canada has the potential to help our European partners, also democracies in East Asia, to reduce their dependence on energy imports from Russia. And that's why we feel it's very important for us to be applying tough sanctions to Russia, but also expediting energy-related projects here in Canada so that we can play our role in reducing that dependency and supporting our allies in their pursuit of energy independence from the pressure that the Russian state has been able to exert, and also depriving the Russian state of the resources that come through energy revenues that they've been using to fund their aggressive war. Unfortunately, rather than expediting these energy projects, we saw the extension of special permits for the export of Gazprom turbines, effectively what could have potentially facilitated continuing energy dependence on Russia. And that's why, as part of this study on Ukraine, the committee did extensive work around the question of whether or not it was a good idea to provide those turbine waivers. We were pleased to see the government withdraw those waivers, and the committee supports that withdrawal. Although our recommendation was to further recognize that waiver should never have been extended in the first place. Those are some of the additional recommendations that we've brought to the table around recognizing Canada's special contribution around energy security. Other recommendations that we were very pleased to see around holding Russia accountable for the crime of aggression, and also recognizing the role that the Wagner terrorist organization is playing in Ukraine, but also in Syria, in Africa, in other parts of the world. And we strongly support the call for the listing of the Wagner Group as a terrorist organization, and we hope that the government will implement that recommendation. It came from a unanimous motion in the House, as well as this report. So this report, as well as our supplementary opinion, provides a great deal of material for the government to hopefully use and implement to support Ukraine and work towards that critical victory for Ukraine, for democracy, and for freedom. Thank you.
We go to MP Bergeron.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. D'abord, j'aimerais souligner également la présence parmi nous de M. Sarai, et il y avait Mme Bendayan qui était des nôtres pour ce point de presse. Je me présente devant vous aujourd'hui, Stéphane Bergeron, député de Montarville et vice-président du Comité des Affaires étrangères et du développement international. Je me présente devant vous aujourd'hui avec des sentiments partagés. D'abord, un sentiment de fierté et un sentiment du devoir accompli par le dépôt de ce rapport en Chambre, mais également un certain sentiment d'embarras, dans la mesure où, comme vous avez pu le constater, outre sur des questions particulières que vient d'évoquer mon collègue conservateur, puis je reviendrai dans quelques instants, l'ensemble des membres de ce comité sont unanimes quant aux 15 recommandations contenues dans le rapport. Et à mon sens, il aurait assurément été possible de déposer ce rapport plus rapidement et conséquemment de faire bénéficier le gouvernement de nos recommandations, de nos observations beaucoup plus rapidement. Mais le comité a été, pour ainsi dire, pris en otage par des considérations de nature partisane qui ont paralysé ses travaux pendant plusieurs semaines, si bien qu'il ne nous a pas été possible de procéder à la finalisation de ce rapport plus rapidement, ce que je déplore grandement. Je pense que nos amis ukrainiens, nos alliés ukrainiens, attendaient de nous que nous nous comportions avec hauteur et responsabilité. Et sur ce plan, je crois que nous avons failli à la tâche parce que nous avons fait un travail extraordinaire, mais nous n'avons pas été en mesure de procéder plus rapidement. Alors, je souligne encore une fois que nous avons travaillé de façon consensuelle et que nous nous entendions sur l'essentiel, ce qui aurait normalement dû se traduire par un rapport déposé beaucoup plus rapidement. Je veux revenir très rapidement sur ce que vient d'évoquer M. Genuis par rapport aux opinions complémentaires du Parti conservateur. Je pense que s'il y a une chose que cette guerre a démontrée, entre autres, c'est la très grande dépendance des économies occidentales envers les hydrocarbures. Et je crois que s'il est une chose que les Européens ont comprise, c'est qu'on doit sortir le plus rapidement possible de l'économie des hydrocarbures. Et je pense que c'est entretenir un discours du passé que de dire aux Européens, ben, on va vous fournir des hydrocarbures pour compenser ce que vous avez perdu en approvisionnement provenant de la Russie. Je pense que nous devrions, au contraire, travailler main dans la main avec les Européens pour accélérer le virage vert, le nécessaire virage vert qui doit nous amener à développer des sources d'énergie alternatives davantage vertes et nous sortir le plus rapidement possible de l'économie déjà dépassée des hydrocarbures. Alors, je vous remercie infiniment et je remercie nos collègues pour ce travail de longue haleine qui a été entrepris et qui n'est pas terminé, comme le soulignait M. le Président. Nous allons poursuivre l'observation de ce qui se passe et pas plus tard que dans les prochains jours, puisque le Comité des Affaires étrangères et du développement international se déplacera en Suède, en Belgique, en Pologne et en Finlande pour poursuivre nos échanges avec nos alliés et voir de quelle façon nous pourrions toujours mieux soutenir nos alliés ukrainiens par rapport à cette lutte qu'ils mènent contre un agresseur implacable, lutte qu'ils mènent bien sûr pour leur indépendance, pour leur liberté, mais également pour nous en tant que démocratie. Merci infiniment.
Now, before we go to questions, I presume the best way to proceed would be to ask the NDP critic, MP McPherson, if she would like to make some introductory remarks as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And actually, I would very much like to. And I do want to thank everybody for being here today. As my colleagues have mentioned, this is a very important report and is accumulation of some important studies that we have undertaken. I do want to reiterate what the chair mentioned, that this is an interim report, that this committee will continue to be seized by what is happening in Ukraine, the illegal invasion of Ukraine by the Russian Federation, and will continue to push for the Canadian government to do everything it can to support the Ukrainian people. Of course, I should say that I'm incredibly proud that we were able to do this work. I think that there is an awful lot of collegiality and unanimity within our committee on the need to do everything possible for the people of Ukraine to help them ultimately take back control of their country and their sovereignty and expel the Russian Federation and Putin from their sovereign territory. I wanted to highlight a few points of the report that are very important to me. I think it's important for us to recognize that, of course, the ultimate goal here is a peaceful Ukraine where civilians are no longer being targeted, where genocide is no longer being committed against the Ukrainian people. And I think it's also important to recognize the impact that this conflict, this war, has had on Ukrainians, but also people around the world in terms of the food crisis that we are seeing, the energy crisis that has been alluded to many, many times. Canada can do more to help. Canada can step up in terms of how we enforce our sanction regime. We can do more to help with things like demining so that we can continue to support the Ukrainian people as they live through these very, very hard and terrible times. I think there's also a role for Canada to play to make sure that we are helping with long-term support. You know, this is not something that will be that Canada will enter into for the short term. We need to be there as Ukraine rebuilds their country after this war. And I'm very confident that all members of the House of Commons stand with the people of Ukraine as we work together to make sure that happens. Thank you very much, and I look forward to questions.
Merci de vos interventions. We'll now go to the questions. We've got one question on the line so far. If you're watching the Zoom, please use the raise hand section if you're not able to spot anybody. So we'll start with the... we will not. I am being... Okay, so no one has raised their hand in the Zoom room. I apologize for the technical difficulties here. So I will go first. I'm Dylan Robertson from the Canadian Press. I just wanted to get the chair's comment on what we've heard from Mr. Bergeron right now about some of the difficulty of getting this report out. I mean, your last witness was in October. What does this say about the ability of this committee to function?
Thank you very much for that question. That's a very good question. As you know, I think it's important that we remain focused on the fact that there was robust arguments and all of the members participated in this process of making sure that we could adopt a report that would be endorsed by all the members. And that's exactly what we accomplished together. However, as Mr. Bergeron has indicated, there were some challenges getting there. And from my perspective, I can just simply say that I think it would be fair to say that various different factors contributed to that delay. But that certainly does not, should not distract from the fact that this is a very robust report and that all of us agree that we should be steadfast in our support of Ukraine and that we will continue to support them as long as it takes. As to what those challenges were, I don't think it would be fair for me to delve into that. Mr. Bergeron is the one who has raised this issue, and I think it would only be fair that you ask him what particular challenges he's referring to.
Vous êtes le bienvenu, Monsieur Bergeron, si vous voulez.
Je pense que le président a raison de souligner que ce qui est important de souligner aujourd'hui, de signaler que ce qui est important de souligner aujourd'hui, c'est l'unanimité des membres de ce comité quant aux recommandations qui sont mises de l'avant, les observations qui ont été faites par rapport au conflit qui a cours présentement. Le commentaire que j'ai fait visait simplement à déplorer le fait que nous soyons arrivés avec ce rapport, cet excellent rapport, si tardivement. Vous l'avez souligné, notre dernier témoin a été entendu au mois d'octobre. Nous aurions dû être en mesure de produire ce rapport plus rapidement. Nous avons été distraits par d'autres questions, d'autres considérations qui ont permis, qui ont fait en sorte que nous n'avons pas été en mesure de nous pencher sur le rapport avant tout récemment, ce qui explique que nous arrivions avec ce rapport aujourd'hui. Mais cela ne minimise en rien la qualité du rapport, de la collaboration que nous avons eue pour aboutir avec ce rapport et les conclusions, les observations qui en découlent. Mon seul regret, c'est que nous n'ayons pas pu faire plus vite. Parce que, comme l'expliquait M. le Président, c'est un rapport intérimaire. Et donc, pendant tout le temps où nous ne parvenions pas à conclure ce rapport intérimaire, bien, nous ne pouvions pas poursuivre pour la suite des choses. Et je vous parlais de la mission que nous allons entreprendre dans quelques jours en Europe. Mais cette mission, techniquement, aurait dû avoir lieu au printemps, peut-être l'été passé, sinon cet automne. Et voyez-vous, nous partons presque un an plus tard. Et ça, c'est le fait de ces petits ennuis que nous avons connus, qui ont un peu paralysé les travaux du comité. Et je pense que si nous voulons être à la hauteur de ce que nos alliés ukrainiennes et ukrainiens attendent de nous, c'est que nous devons mettre de côté des considérations de nature partisane et faire le travail qu'ils attendent de nous. Et ce travail a été fait dans ce rapport, un rapport excellent, qui, je pense, se suffisait en soi. Nos amis conservateurs ont souhaité y ajouter des trucs, fort bien, ça leur appartient, mais je pense que le rapport lui-même, celui qui fait l'objet d'un consensus de la part de toutes les formations politiques, est remarquable. Et j'espère que le gouvernement saura épuiser toute l'inspiration requise pour multiplier, décupler l'effort de soutien à notre allié ukrainien.
Thank you. And my follow-up question is about diplomats, Russia's diplomats here in Canada, the recommendations there to reduce their presence and to crack down on anyone who's not following, normal diplomatic protocols. And I'm asking this to everyone here today and on Zoom, if you had any thoughts about the transparency aspect, because it goes over the bicycle incident, and we know that there wasn't a police charge in that. It's hard to know for sure. I mean, we can guess who did what here, but in terms of what Russia's diplomats are actually doing in Canada, there didn't seem to be a recommendation looking for more clarity on that front. It was more to expel people who are misusing this. And I'm just wondering if you could walk through some of the thinking about, do we need more transparency in that regard? And if that was discarded just because it's diplomacy and it's hard to get that sort of transparency?
And that's a great question. I think that given some of the things that we have seen in the course of the last year, it is important that we continue to operate with eyes wide open. However, the recommendation that was unanimously adopted by all the members of this committee was that we should ensure that every Russian diplomat which is posted to Canada continue to operate within the parameters of their diplomatic responsibilities. And in the event they do not do so, that it is incumbent upon us to consider the possibility of expelling them. So the recommendation is very well tailored, it's very well considered, and again, it suggests that we should continue to monitor things very, very closely and to provide every assurance to all Canadians and Ukrainians that we will stand by them and make sure that they can freely express all of their concerns, that they are not intimidated by any officials, whether Russian or otherwise, and that we will keep an eye on developments as they unfold on Canadian soil.
Sure, I'll throw to Ms. McPherson and come back to the room. I think you're unmuted, Ms. McPherson.
Oh, I think I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that question. I think it's very important. You know, what we have been seeing from some of the Russian diplomats has been appalling. You know, whether that be social media posts or other actions. And I do think it's vital that the government does everything possible to hold those diplomats to account. You know, at a time when Canadians are rightfully very worried about foreign interference, intimidation of Canadian citizens and others who are in Canada, the role of misinformation and disinformation in our country, I think it is vital that we are examining how the diplomatic staff within the Russian embassy are contributing to that and what needs to be done to make that stop.
Yeah, Dylan, thank you for the question. I think it's an important one. Just briefly going back to your previous question, I'd just say I'm a glass half full kind of person. I think it's great that we have a strong report that reflects the consensus of the committee. Obviously, we've added some thoughts in the supplementary report, and I don't disagree that it's always desirable to move faster. But look, I think in terms of the report itself, this is an important report, a strong report, and it will have an impact. When it comes to your second question, I think one of the problems we've seen with this government is a gap on implementation. So in principle, everybody's prepared to say, we want to have sanctions, we want to expel those involved in foreign interference. But then there's been a gap in terms of actually implementing that. So in the 8-odd years this government has been in power, I don't think we've seen any instances of diplomats being expelled as a result of involvement in foreign interference operations here in Canada. So there's been a lot of discussion about those kinds of operations. I think it's well known that they happen and that there's involvement of diplomats. But there has not been that kind of response. This recommendation is similar to a recommendation in a report in the last Parliament from the Canada-China Committee with respect to Hong Kong. And again, there have been no expulsion. When it comes to sanctions as well, I think one of the issues the committee needs to look into is not just who's been sanctioned, but how is the implementation of that sanction, those sanctions going. I mean, again, another example, but it's the position of the Government of Canada that we're not going to want to import products made by slave labor, and not a single shipment has been stopped from China in association with those prohibitions on forced labor. And then we talk a strong game on sanctions, but then this waiver is granted with respect to Gazprom turbines. So we need to look not just at the intentions of the policy, but at the implementation. And that's why when it comes to combating foreign interference, our supplementary report underlines the need to go further, to actually make sure we're implementing these measures, not just talking tough and saying, how dare you, we're not allowing that involvement, but we actually ensure that the government is identifying people that are involved in foreign interference and expelling expelling them if they're part of the diplomatic corps.
Je ne sais pas si, en quoi le rapport complémentaire de nos amis conservateurs arrivera à faire bouger le gouvernement ou à forcer le gouvernement à bouger. Chose certaine, nous déposons ce rapport. Il faut laisser la chance aux coureurs. Nous avons exprimé au gouvernement quelles étaient nos attentes à l'égard des diplomates russes, particulièrement. Je vais me permettre de vous dire que lorsqu'un gouvernement, et c'est le cas du gouvernement du Canada, affirme qu'il souhaite, au bout du processus, en arriver à une solution pacifique, diplomatique, négociée, lorsque l'Ukraine le jugera opportun, je pense qu'il faut maintenir les canaux diplomatiques ouverts. Parce qu'une fois qu'on a expulsé les diplomates, quel est l'outil qu'il nous reste sur le plan diplomatique? On a déjà utilisé l'arme thermonucléaire. Parce qu'une fois qu'on a expulsé les diplomates, sur le plan diplomatique, il n'y a plus rien qu'on puisse faire. Donc, moi, je pense qu'il faut, bien sûr, tenir les diplomates russes responsables de leurs gestes et réagir en conséquence si ceux-ci posent des gestes qui outrepassent leur statut diplomatique. Cela dit, puis il faut évidemment éviter d'envoyer un contre-message en prétendant vouloir en arriver éventuellement à une solution diplomatique négociée, puis du même coup fermer les canaux de communication. Mais on ne peut pas du même souffle dire qu'on veut garder les canaux de communication ouverts et ne pas communiquer. Or, ce qu'on croit comprendre, c'est qu'il n'y a aucune communication entre le gouvernement du Canada et les diplomates russes qui sont en poste à Ottawa. Dès lors, quelle est l'utilité de les maintenir ici, sinon que de simplement prétendre qu'on veut garder la porte ouverte à la diplomatie? Mais cette diplomatie doit s'exprimer d'une façon ou d'une autre. Quelles sont les négociations, quelles sont les discussions que le gouvernement du Canada a à Moscou avec son personnel sur place et ici avec le personnel de l'ambassade de Russie pour tenter de raisonner le Kremlin et de faire en sorte que cette guerre puisse prendre fin? Alors, on ne peut pas, d'un côté, affirmer qu'on veut maintenir les canaux diplomatiques ouverts et de l'autre côté, ne pas s'en servir. Et c'est exactement la situation dans laquelle on se retrouve présentement. Et ce qui amène plusieurs personnes, dont vous-même, à vous dire, bien, est-ce qu'on ne devrait pas expulser les diplomates russes? Mais on nous donne comme réponse qu'il faut garder les canaux de communication ouverts. Mais pourquoi, si on ne les utilise pas? Donc, moi, je pense que si on veut être sérieux, on doit utiliser tous les canaux disponibles pour inciter les Russes à mettre un terme à cette guerre d'agression totalement injustifiée et illégale. Et les canaux diplomatiques doivent servir à ça. Or, selon ce qu'on en comprend, il n'y a pas de son, pas d'image entre Ottawa et Moscou présentement, ni à travers le personnel qui est à Moscou, ni à travers le personnel qui est à Ottawa. Alors, voilà ce que j'aurais à dire sur la question des diplomates russes.
Mr. Chair, you had more to add. You were signaling.
Yes, absolutely. I just wanted to add to what Mr. Bergeron said. He made reference to the supplementary page and a half that were provided by the Conservative Party and suggested that perhaps this was an issue they could have elaborated on in the supplementary report. I would definitely agree with Mr. Bergeron. In addition to that, I would add that the several recommendations that are made in the supplementary report provided by the Conservative Party, none of those issues, to the best of my understanding, were never actually shared with the other members of the committee. I think the better approach would have been for the Conservative members to have at least proposed those measures to the entire committee and determine if there would have been support from all the members. So that's one thing I wanted to add to what Mr. Bergeron said. The second thing I would add is, as you understand fully, we will not hesitate to do anything that is necessary to ensure that Ukraine knows that we stand fully beside them. And when it comes to Russian diplomats, I think the really important factor to bear in mind is that we are a country that does not act in an arbitrary or rash manner. And all of the considerations that were raised by my colleague are issues that we are considering. They are issues that we discuss with our other allies, because we think it is imperative to act in a coordinated fashion to make sure that Russia is fully cognizant of the fact that we will never hesitate to stand beside Ukraine and to stand beside the Ukrainians that we have welcomed to Canada. Thank you.
I don't mean to go in circles. I will throw to questions, but I figure the Conservatives should have a chance to respond even briefly if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, the deliberations around the development and finalization of the report, proposals for amendments to it and such, those happen in camera. So I can assure you that none of the positions we've taken in the supplementary report should come as a surprise, but the reality is I can't point you to a record of those in-camera deliberations, and neither can or should my colleagues. I will just say that nobody should be surprised that the Conservative Party strongly supports Canada doing more on the issue of contributing to global energy security. Nobody should be surprised that our party believes that Canada can play a role in expediting energy projects, and nobody should be surprised that we are taking a strong position around the implementation of commitments on combating foreign state-backed interference in Canada. The recommendation that we expel diplomats involved in activities that are not consistent with official diplomatic status, that's one that all of us agree with. Our position is that we need to see stronger enforcement from the government of that commitment. And our supplementary report outlined specifically what you talked about in terms of the bicycle case as being an example that was brought to us at committee. So we've been clear from the beginning on these points in saying that Canada needs to be doing more to contribute on the issue of energy security. We need to be doing more to combat foreign interference. And we think the Gazprom turbine waiver by the government was a big mistake. So there's a lot of areas of agreement here. Again, I mean, glass half full, glass 3/4 full. There are some points where our party is saying the government can and should do more around energy security, around combating foreign interference, and around recognizing what a significant error the Gazprom waiver was.
Thank you. I'm just going to ask the other journalist who's here on Zoom, please use the raise hand function if you would like a question. Maybe you're just listening in. I'm not seeing a hand up. I will ask a pair of questions, and that might be the end of this press conference. So I just wanted to know a bit about sanctions, how each of the parties would characterize our sanctions regime right now. I know what the report recommends, but what I'd like to actually get a perspective on is, is it working at all? Is it helpful? Is it a mess? Is it counterproductive? Is it just political salesmanship? I'm going to start with the chair and go to the co-chairs. Just how would you characterize how our sanctions regime is actually working right now?
Absolutely. That's a very good question. Once again, I would highlight the fact that, to the best of my knowledge, Canada has one of the lengthiest lists of sanctions that have been adopted by any country so far. In addition to that, I think it's important to highlight the reality that all of the sanctions that we have adopted to date are sanctions that we discussed with our friends and our allies, because we think it is imperative that we continue to respond to Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine by acting in a coordinated fashion. It is only when Canada and its allies act in tandem that we can ensure that all of these measures are forceful and that they do act as a significant deterrent against Russia and its oligarchs. So I think we should bear in mind that we not only have the lengthiest lists of sanctions to date, but we will continue to examine other ways in which we can punish the Russian regime and Russian oligarchs as well.
I'm going to go to Mr. Genuis, Mr. Bergeron, and then Ms. McPherson.
Thank you. So we support the sanctions that the government has implemented to date. I will say it can be a little bit imprecise to say what is the volume of sanctions, because the critical point with sanctions is targeting the individuals and the entities that you need to target to have the most effective impact. We are on the record for having called for the implementation that some of the sanctions the government has implemented much earlier in the process. Actually, we were calling for tougher sanctions in the lead up to the further invasion. We thought that those could have had a stronger deterrent effect if those had been implemented earlier, and we continue to follow up and call for the government to take additional measures. I think the other issues around sanctions that we need to be tracking are supporting the full implementation of sanctions, and this is an issue that the committee is intending to look at in the near future, specifically the implementation of sanctions, how effective that is, how effective the enforcement is around it, and all parties are supportive, I think, of doing that investigative work and being able to report on that. And then we have sought in this report that the government implement provisions around the repurposing of sanctioned assets and being able to use those sanctioned assets to contribute to the recovery effort. So supportive of the steps that have been taken. Many of them were steps we called for earlier than they were implemented, and we think there's more work to be done.
Je pense qu'il est important de dire d'entrée de jeu que nous sommes tous et toutes solidaires à l'égard du fait d'imposer des sanctions extrêmement sévères à l'encontre de la Russie et de ses dirigeants, et de toutes celles et ceux qui, de près ou de loin, contribuent à l'agression russe contre l'Ukraine. Cela dit, je pense qu'il nous faut pas simplement paraître, mais également s'assurer que ce qu'on dit, on le fasse. Donc, s'assurer que les bottines suivent les babines. S'assurer de faire ce qu'on dit et de dire ce qu'on fait. Ce qu'on a constaté, et je veux saluer le travail de ma collègue Heather McPherson à cet égard, ce qu'on a constaté, c'est que très souvent, on affirme mettre en place des sanctions, et lorsqu'on regarde les résultats, on réalise que les résultats sont plutôt faméliques. Parce qu'on n'a pas, je dirais, un processus très solide pour suivre l'application des sanctions. Par exemple, on va s'en remettre aux banquiers pour appliquer des sanctions qui vont venir, d'une certaine façon, les désavantager sur le plan commercial. Alors, on remet sur les épaules des banquiers la responsabilité qui devrait être celle de l'État. Donc, les mécanismes de suivi des sanctions ne sont pas en place, ce qui fait en sorte que, au-delà de ce qu'on prétend vouloir faire, les résultats ne sont pas toujours au rendez-vous. Et je veux revenir sur un élément qu'a évoqué M. le Président. Bien sûr, on essaie d'appliquer des sanctions en concertation avec nos alliés. Mais on prend toujours en considération les particularités de notre commerce ou de la présence d'actifs russes sur le territoire des uns et des autres. Et donc, on essaie d'ajuster les sanctions pour qu'elles soient le plus efficaces possible contre les gens qui sont au pouvoir au Kremlin ou les oligarques, toutes les personnes qui, de près ou de loin, ou les institutions qui, de près ou de loin, soutiennent le régime du Kremlin. On a vu, par exemple, qu'une des meilleures façons d'attaquer le régime économique russe, c'était via le système international SWIFT. Or, il y a un grand nombre de banques russes qui échappent encore à cette sanction. Et donc, plusieurs transactions, plutôt que de se faire avec la banque X, qui est exclue du système international SWIFT, bon, on va faire la transaction via la banque Y, qui, elle, n'est pas encore exclue du système international SWIFT. Donc, il y a des incohérences dans notre système de sanctions qui fait en sorte qu'on n'est pas aussi efficace qu'on devrait l'être. Puis, je me permets de souligner qu'il y a certaines sanctions qui sont carrément contre-productives. Le Canada est l'un des seuls, sinon le seul, à appliquer une sanction sur les grains et les semences en provenance de Russie. L'effet de cela, c'est que ce sont nos producteurs agricoles qui sont désavantagés et qui font en sorte que les produits agricoles russes sont plus compétitifs que les produits agricoles canadiens sur les marchés internationaux. Alors, pouvez-vous imaginer une situation plus ridicule que celle-là? Alors, il faut effectivement, puis un des objectifs de ce comité, éventuellement, c'est de réviser le système de sanctions du Canada, justement pour essayer d'éviter ce genre d'incohérence et faire en sorte que lorsqu'on décide d'appliquer des sanctions, il y a véritablement des effets en bout de piste. Je vous remercie.
Mr. Chair, can I jump in?
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for the question, Dylan. It's, of course, a very important question, one that I've been seized with for some time, as you know. I'm quite worried about our sanction regime. I'm worried about how it is being implemented, how it is being enforced. I've asked multiple times through order paper questions within the House of Commons, with letters to the minister, asking for more transparency on our sanction regime. As the chair of the committee has mentioned, there is an extensive list of those who are being sanctioned by Canada, and that list is predominantly with regards to Russia, but there are also sanctions. Sanctions are a key piece of our foreign policy with regards to Haiti, Iran, other countries, other areas of the world where there is grave human rights abuses, all sorts of horrendous things occurring. The problem is you can put everyone you want on the sanction list, and if there is no enforcement, if there is no actual transparency on why those people are on that list, when they're put on the list, what's been seized, which assets have been seized, they don't work. And my worry is that at this point, the Canadian government is not doing what they can to enforce the sanctions. So we've seized $121 million to date of Russian assets. That is not enough. I also feel that this is something that the Foreign Affairs Committee needs to look at. That's why I did bring forward a study on sanctions, and we will be completing that study hopefully in the coming months. Sanctions are an important tool. I think we all agree that they are an excellent tool to use to force the Russian Federation and Vladimir Putin to leave Ukraine, but they don't work if they are not enforced, if we do not have a good enforcement mechanism, and our allies recognize that. Thank you.
Thank you. And just the very last question is about the upcoming trip. Hopefully the chair, if you could just enlighten us a bit about who you're planning to speak with and more importantly, the goal of this trip.
Absolutely. The purposes of the trip, as was indicated by Mr. Bergeron, is to ensure that we remain focused on Ukraine and remain focused on how best we as a country can continue to assist not only Ukraine, but our allies as well. So we will be visiting 4 countries. We will be going to Sweden, we will be going to Finland, to Belgium, and to Poland as well. And it's important that we meet with as many individuals and as many organizations as possible. I can assure you that the list has yet to be finalized, but it is a very lengthy list of individuals and organizations because we really want to make sure that we all benefit from this trip and we come back with fresh ideas and that we can continue to work on the situation in Ukraine and contribute to Canada's robust response to the situation in Ukraine.
Good. I think we'll end it there. I don't think anyone disagrees with what was said. I don't think we've got time to add to that. But thank you very much for taking the time here and for coping with our technical difficulties. Have a good day.